Hello and welcome back to Down the Slope. It's been a while, guys, but we are back. David Gray's in charge. We're halfway through the summer, and Hibs are back in action tomorrow, as of you seeing this. I'm joined today by Craig, who you'll probably see more often this season. We've got Liam and Ewan. Liam, we'll come to you first. How are you getting on?
I'm doing really good, mate. It's been a really good summer, actually. Been a really nice sort of 5 or 6 weeks. No, things are all hunky dory here.
Nice. And Craig, how are you getting on?
I'm not bad, mate. I've had a less eventful summer, just kept the head down, been working, been at the gym, and that's been about me, to be fair. So, ready to get going again.
I'll find a way to naturally weave it in, but Craig is big on the CrossFit, so that's going to be his ongoing meme. So if you guys want to find up creative ways to slag him off for that, get those cogs turning, boys.
CrossFit's a cult, Harry. It's a cult and it needs to
Honest,
be
every time I
stopped.
go up, Bex and Craig all about it. But anyway, Craig, that'll reappear very often.
Thanks for that.
Ewan, massive congrats on behalf of the rest of the pod engagement, mate. Well done.
Thank you very much. And then, as Liam kindly pointed out when we sort of all caught up about what our plans were and stuff, that the engagement and me saying I want to make sure I get to almost all away games this season probably won't go hand in hand. So we'll maybe keep a running track on that across the season and see how many times various things get used as excuses for not going. But no, thank you very much, mate. Thank you.
Yes, and good summer in general aside from that.
Yeah, mate, aye. Not too bad. Getting ready to go on holiday on Sunday, actually. So I actually, for various reasons, miss every single League Cup game. And then, yeah, just good summer, mate. What about you?
Yeah, no, it's been fine. Actually, quite busy work-wise. It's one of those things working in sports. Everybody thinks that as soon as you hit the summer and the season's off, that everything would kind of wind down. But the amount of things we've got going on, very, very busy. But anyway, nobody cares about my summer. Nobody cares about my work. They care about Hibs. And as mentioned, we're how many weeks into the transfer window now? Is it about 4 weeks in, maybe?
Aye, pretty much. I
Yeah,
think
aye.
14th.
Aye, cool. So let's kind of talk about the people who've left first, because I think the people that have come in is normally a bit more exciting. So we'll just kind of go through them. I've grouped some of them together based off relevance. So Lewis Stevenson, Paul Hanlon both went to Raith Rovers. Craig, come to you first. A bit heartbroken.
Mate, definitely. Bizarre, eh? Bizarre. And then Paul Hanlon's going for Wraith the other night, so that was it was strange. But I'm quite glad they're both at the same club. It's kind of fairy tale stuff that, but uh, no, it's a strange one. But I'm happy that they're found a decent club at a decent level. So crack on with them, eh?
And Liam, obviously, I think a lot of the fan base felt it was time for them to move on. Are you worried that we've not really got anybody at the club now, apart from maybe David Gray, who gets it, just based off the fact of how long Lewis and Paul were at the club?
I would hope that Joe Newell gets it by now. I think there's maybe some others as well that are coming through. They're coming through the ranks who maybe been Hibs supporters growing up. I must admit, I'm less worried about that aspect of it. I was more worried about the sort of on-pitch experience that the two of them take away with them. We did our season review episode, so I won't go into my thoughts on the two of them departing again. But just refer you back to that one if you want to hear us go on about it. But no, I'm sad to see them go. I do think it's a it's it's a sort of, I suppose, a risky move in some respects, because what you do by getting rid of two club legends like that is make an assumption that you're going to recruit better. So time will tell if we've managed to do that or not.
And yeah, if you want to round us off on those two.
Yeah, Harry, we spent quite a lot of time on April, May on it, but I think the Lewis Stevenson one is the least surprising, but he is of the two, maybe the one that hasn't been replaced yet. I think just on the players personally, I was surprised that Paul Hanlon had to, I mean, he didn't have to, but or chose to drop into the Championship. That was actually quite a surprise. I thought he was going to stay in the Scottish Premiership this season, but no, yeah, no, it was sort of two players that we knew were leaving sort of long before the season finished, and they got a good send off and stuff. And here we are, first episode where they're not Hibs players.
Wild, and I don't know how many minutes in we are, but Ewan's already made me livid by saying we've replaced Paul Hanlon, who's the only left-sided centre back for the
Yeah, but
last
we
3 years.
signed
We've
two.
we've no we've no
Like,
replaced them. We've no replaced. We need that's coming later on. You don't get me wound up. But the next bracket of players I've got, I won't come into all use for all of them because some of these are irrelevant. But Jack Ross kind of went on a tear of signing young players that looked like they could be promising, and a couple of them didn't work out in the shape of Dan Mackay, Dylan Tate, Dan Mackay going to Partick Thistle on a free, was it, I believe on a free, and then Dylan Tate moving to Falkirk. Liam, any thoughts about that? Just kind of a failed experiment?
I like the concept of signing good young Scottish players or good young players playing in Scotland. I've absolutely no issues with it. I think they were both relatively low cost punts that didn't work out. I believe that we've still got a sell on fee for Dylan Tate if he kicks on at Falkirk. To be honest, I didn't really see enough from either of them to be too disappointed that they're away. And I think the fact that they've both kind of gone back to the level that ultimately we signed them from probably tells its own story.
Yeah, I think that's fair summary. Craig, I'll come to you on the next couple. Adam Lafondra obviously left the club, and David Marshall retired. What are those holes? Obviously, we probably need that striker role filled. But what's your thoughts on those two departing?
I'm not overly disappointed or gutted with either not being in the squad anymore. I think they both contributed well, to be fair. Adam Lafondra, I was kind of. I know there was a lot of people, I think maybe around the Livingston when we beat them 3-0 at home. A lot of people after that game saying we should give him another deal, and I was just like, do you know what? He's getting on a wee bit now. Let's wait until the end of the season and just see where we stand in that one. But no, I probably would have, if I was in their shoes, I would have done the same thing. I probably wouldn't have given another deal. And Dave Marshall, obviously, clearly, it was time for him, I think, to hang the boots up, and he's moved into this mad role that we've given him with a mad title. But we'll see. We'll see how that one goes.
I'm going to blame Lee Johnson for that because I think he started the fake rules being made at Hibernian Football Club when he made Ryan
Leadership
Porteous
role.
the leadership role of the team, which I still don't even think Lee Johnson understands. I'm going to kind of group together the next couples because we've got loan players going out. Murray Johnson and Murray Aitken both going to Airdrie, Oscar McIntyre to Queen of the South, and Kyle McClelland to Coleraine FC, I believe it's pronounced.
Who?
Exactly. The first three of them, I think that's good. Get them in the lower system, hopefully minutes in Scottish football. Murray Johnson, I know, is one that the club's quite excited about and hopefully probably takes that number two role next year at the club. But any thoughts on those ones, guys? You and I've not asked you a question in a while.
Probably quite a natural churn of players going out in general, Harry. I think there's probably no real surprises on anyone that's left yet. I don't think the majority of them being out of contract, of course, but the loan players specifically, no. I think we would all be agreed in thinking that McClelland probably doesn't have a future at the club. I think his contract might be up at the end of this year anyway. But no, the other players, hopefully they go out and get minutes under their belts, and Johnson especially, like, it appears that our number one this season is going to be a loan player. Could that be with a view to Murray Johnson coming next year as our number one if he goes and plays 30 odd games in the championship this season? Because he will sort of be getting to that age himself. So I think all the loan moves make sense, and it's good. I think it's good to get them done early so they can go and have pre-season with their respective clubs and all that, so they're settled in and ready to hit the ground running at their clubs as much as the players we're bringing in.
Nice. And last one who's confirmed left was Jacob Blaney. He went to Crusaders FC. I know there's quite a lot of like hype around him maybe a season and a half ago. It just didn't really work out. Was it Queen of the South he was at last season, I believe?
No,
Or
it
have I
wasn't
made
Queen
that
of the
up?
South. Nah, it was maybe Stenhousemuir, or it was a League Two team. I can't
Oh,
remember
okay.
who though.
Well,
Was it
that
not
just
five?
was it East Fife?
Someone was at East Five.
No, I don't think it was him.
Mm.
My head's mashed. That's last
There
season
was
anyway.
definitely a player that was at East Fife last
There
season
was,
for Hibs,
yeah.
and you didn't know about him because I remember chatting you about it because you're
Okay.
supposed to be an East Fife fan.
On the Fife.
And it
I've got
and
a
it was
Fife
and it
on.
was Jacob Laney.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
Fuck.
it was.
All right, well, he done pish for his face, so I'm glad he's out. Anyway, in terms of so that's everybody that's officially gone from the club. I don't think there's anybody that we're begrudging leaving too much. Obviously, a couple of them we're wishing very well. But in terms of who we want to leave for the rest of the season, obviously we touched on in our last episode. Well, the one before David Gray. That we had a massive list. We probably had a bigger list of people we wanted out than we actually wanted in. So in terms of the two rumoured ones, Max Boric was pictured in a Swindon Town kit. So despite there not being any news from the club or in the press. We're assuming Max Boric is at Swindon Town in some capacity. And then Ewan Henderson is supposedly, for a fee, going to be moving to Beerschot. And I believe that they're a Belgian team as well. That's definitely two that were on my list of potentially get rid. Craig, anybody on your list?
Just the sort of usual suspects I think you'll see banded about Twitter quite regularly. I think Tavares would definitely be one. He's one of these guys that it seems like is maybe just going to hang around because he'll by what people are saying he's on quite a decent wage. Fair play to him. If I was in his position, I wouldn't want to leave either. But unless he shows something major early doors going into the season, then I think he's one that you'd be looking to move out, certainly on loan at the very least, if we can get somebody to take him. And then maybe just a couple of other sort of guys that are just kicking about that don't really look like they're going to get into the first team. Noah Kenna, Riley Harbottle, these types of guys. They don't really look like they're going to have much of an impact. Some of these ones look similar to Dan Mackay. These guys you bring in, maybe sort of low fee or low wages or whatever, and you hope that they can turn into something, but you're not going to get all of them. So,
I think Jake Doyle-Hayes is one for me. I don't know. I think it's too much of a coincidence that he plays in the second half of the game at Edinburgh City with on the face of it, second string team. He's then too ill to fly to the Netherlands for a week and a bit. Like, I don't know. It's like he plays on a Saturday. Illness rules him out from flying on a Monday. I don't know. I think he might move on. I think he's a player that I think all of us like. But he's obviously had his struggle with injuries, and it wouldn't surprise me if he was a player that was moved on this summer. I know Liam highlighted to us last night some of the players that featured for the development squad, and he wasn't one of them. And the day players you would probably expect to be moved on, not to. Like I say, Liam highlighted that to us. I don't know if he's got anything on that, but yeah, Jake Doyle-Hayes would probably be the sort of rogue one for me that I think at this point I'm thinking might well move on.
I do like Jake Doyle-Hayes, but he is one of the players that you almost forget he's at the club. He's been on the injury table that often. One, I'll let you say yours in a second. One that you haven't mentioned for me, I'm kind of on the fence still, just due to the lack of depth in the positions. Harry McCurdy. I know he was predominantly a striker option at Swindon until we get someone else. I probably wouldn't let him go. But Liam, you're shaking your head to keep him or to let him go.
Oh no, no. He can go to the same place that Max Boric is at. They can get a 2-for-1. And then they can take Boric and then keep McCurdy. Nah. He's obviously been through a lot, but I mean, I just don't think it's going to work out for him at Hibs. I'm not one of those people who thinks he just needs a goal. I think he needs a lot more than that, to be honest. I think the only other one that you probably have, or the couple you haven't mentioned, I would say, I think we're probably trying to move on, but maybe not as actively as some of the names you've mentioned. I think Alan Del Ferrier's probably done at Hibs. I think, I mean, it's quite as an indictment of where Jair's at that Rudy Molotnikov is ahead of him in the pecking order now, it would appear, and I think he's only played a handful of games for Stirling Albion and a couple of games in the first team. But I think already looks more robust than Jair and more suited to playing the Scottish game, which is incredible when you think about the fact that Jair's been in and around the first team for 2 years, coming on for his third season at the club. And then I think Jojo Wallacott would be the other one. I think, given the wages he'll be on, I think we will probably try and look to move him on. But I don't think that's a massive priority either, just because of where the goalkeeping department's at. You've potentially got Boric going out, Johnson's gone, Marshall's retired, so you'd only really would leave you with Bursic, who I think was it an ACL injury he had? It was a long-term injury anyway that he had, so he was out for a long time. So I think that's a bit of a risk, but. Yeah, and then I think we'll see some other youngsters go out on loan as well. But I mean, the difficult thing for Hibs is going to be moving guys like Jair on, because I just don't see there being a huge number of people in the market for a player like that.
I think Wallacott and McCurdy would probably be players that you might see still being here for the first however many games you've got in August, and then sort of right at the end of the window maybe find themselves down at a Mansfield or something, like that sort of like, you know what I mean? Just like that late sort of deadline day, like Hibs have signed a goalkeeper on loan from somewhere, and so what that means, Wallacott can go off to try and obviously play first team minutes. And the same with McCarthy, although what is the even like similar to Tavares, maybe for different reasons, but what is the market for a Harry McCarthy? Like, he went back to somewhere that loves him and they ended up coming home early last year. You know what I mean? Like, he was back up before the season finished down there. He's got a year left on his deal, I think. So no, I don't think anyone would look at that and go, "Oh, he's maybe even worth 50 grand or whatever." Will Hibs be in a situation where they want to pay him off because he's probably on decent money? So he might be a player that just lurks for a year. You know what I mean?
I was just thinking if he got signed by a random team down south that wasn't Swindon, that if they were making his like entrance to the club compilation, he couldn't use any Hibs clips, and I just think that's really funny. Yeah, he's not had the best time. In fairness, the one thing I'll say to Harry McCurdy, if Aberdeen weren't allowed to punch the ball away on the line, he would have had a last minute winner at Pittodrie, which would have been fun. But
I know I've hammered him a wee bit on this, probably a wee bit over unfairly. I do actually think he's been, as well as not a great signing, I think he's been brutally unlucky with
Oh,
signing for a manager who did not know what to do with him, did not know how to use him, and it was apparent didn't know what system to put him in. Obviously, his health issues last season, the loan move that didn't work out from last season, I think he has been dreadfully unlucky, but I also don't think he's good enough.
and at Tynecastle, all he had to do was square the ball and he booted it over the bar, and I've still not forgiven him for
He
it.
was awful that day, awful.
Oh, cringe. But yes, Harry, if you're still at the club, welcome. If you're not at the club, good luck to you. And moving on to
Sorry, see, did you said you got annoyed at me? I think we wish all the players that have left best wishes, by the way. I think you said some of them, but I don't like any of the players that have left this
no,
season.
I said some of them we wish extra luck to, meaning Paul Hanlon and is that not what I said? All right, well, if you're not Hibs, if you're no one else, nah, that's not actually my boss.
Do you wish Eliezer Mayenda the best of luck?
Oh,
Fuck, I forgot about him.
no.
He's
Because
gonna be a quiz question in years to come.
Yeah.
Like, guess who?
bring it back, bring it back. And I couldn't even name you. Like there was did we have another lone player that was? Oh no, I'm thinking Owen Bevan. When's he coming back? Actually, get Bevan involved.
I don't know.
Sorry.
Chant is.
Aye, bring him back. That's
I
my
take
king.
him.
What a legend. Aye, get him back. Cool. Anyway, speaking of players we should be bringing back, let's talk about some players who've joined. This is Liam's least favourite time of any transfer window where I butcher all our new signings' names for the first 2 weeks until someone corrects me. But Liam's already said one, so we'll come to him first. Josef Bursik, who we have signed on loan from Club Bruges. Again, we're doing a lot of work with Belgium here, guys. But Liam, you seem to have at least watched the interview with him when he first joined. Any initial thoughts?
I mean, initial thoughts are it's a sort of, he's obviously not going to be that level of quality, but it's a sort of Mizian Mawida type signing, and that it's a player who I think through his youth career was destined for really big things, and then he's got to the sort of early 20s and hasn't lived up to that potential, probably for a variety of factors. Won the under 20s World Cup with England, I think. I saw the list of his teammates the other day, and it was like basically all the guys that are playing for them at the underperforming for them at the Euros at the moment. I do think he's a potentially very good signing, and also I think he could potentially be a very not good signing. I think this is one of these ones, but I don't think he's going to end up being somewhere in the middle. I think he's either going to do really good for us or really not very good. Just based on his potential when he's got to, and the fact that he don't think he played any football at any reasonable level last season, played like a handful of games in some sort of reserve league or second tier league. It gives you major, like, huge upside, but also huge downside sort of vibes.
It's a weird one, isn't it? He's the volume of games that he played for Stoke across 2 seasons. It was like, if he was like a backup young goalkeeper, 2 or 3 maybe, Harry, but I think he played double figures in the Championship, sort of 2 seasons in a row. So they obviously seen him as, unless their number one goalkeeper got injured twice, they obviously seen him as a very good prospect that maybe did get in. I don't know if that's when he got his injury, Liam, but Like,
I think, and I might be wrong about this because I'm trying to tie the timelines together, but I think Jack Butland maybe was Stokes' number one at the time. And I think he's been pretty injury prone through his career, so it wouldn't surprise me if Butland had been injured and he got an opportunity when he was injured, if that makes
Should
sense.
have got like 50 games or something, did he not?
yeah, like
Across the two seasons.
Yeah.
he has played a decent volume of games at a good level, especially for his age. Like we talked about Kev Dabrowski being young. I think he might be younger than what Dabrowski is. You know what I mean? For example, so it's still a young goalkeeper with albeit like Liam says, last year not playing a lot of games, like a good background of games behind. I think he's only 24, 25.
I'm talking shite that Butland wasn't there. It was the guy Jack Bonham, and then the first season it was Angus Gunn.
Oh,
And
Well, decent
the
caliber
minutes were
goalkeeper.
spread between three keepers in both those seasons, which is odd. You never really see a club use 3 seasons unless it's Neil Lennon during the COVID season where he couldn't decide between Connor Hazard and what's his name? What was his name? The Greek guy.
Barcast.
And
Podcast,
and who
Jesus.
was the other one? Scott
Good
Bain. Just
knowledge.
kept on just changing between the three of them. Neil Lennon's goalkeeping school.
Or Paul Heckenbaum with fucking Chris Maxwell.
You stole my next question. I was going to say, Craig, based off experience of Hibs lone goalkeepers, we've got Maxwell and Dylan Barnes. Was that his name, Dylan Barnes, the goalkeeper? Um, Two stinkers. What's Bursick got to do to instill confidence in you in his first couple of months?
Keep the ball at the net. Pretty
Well,
simple, eh? Stop the ball going in the net, make good saves. I want to see a keeper command his box, shouting at his defenders, although it sounds like our defenders are quite vocal as it is, which I like the look of. But no, I'd like to see just having good command. But ultimately, when a goalkeeper, you don't really look any further. If he makes big saves, then
Mhm.
maybe they'll be bothered about how his distribution is and all that stuff. If he's keeping the ball at the net, then that's pretty much
I
the
mean,
be all and end all.
at the weekend as well. A couple of minutes in, made a good one-on-one save. So
Do you know what? I
pretty good.
just like the way he dives as well. There was one shot that the boy missed over the bar, and I'm going to use Liam's scale of he's either going to be amazing or he's going to be absolutely terrible. And I'm going to say he's been amazing just purely based off the really sort of high-tech way of the way he dives. It looks cool, so I'm going to say he's been unreal.
I'm quite disappointed because Craig said I'm going to use Liam's, and I was fully expecting the word athleticism to come out, but it didn't. So, note that for next time we use something of Liam's. But yeah, no. Being honest, I don't really have any thoughts on him. As if the Murray Johnson plan is what they're going for, or maybe it's a year of let's bring him in, and if he's good enough, see if we can maybe sign him if he's never going to be first choice at Bruges. I think it's relatively safe. I don't think there's any like major issues with it for me. The only thing is with goalkeepers, it's the same as like poaching strikers. Highlight reels never really tell the true story of what a keeper's like, so I don't have anything to really base an opinion off as of yet. Moving on to the next signing we've made. This again is the easier pronunciation of the two. Warren O'Hara, who we signed from MK Dons, big powerful centre back from Ireland, which is great news. And I'll come to you first on Big Warren.
One of my initial thoughts really, really annoys me that everyone on that Joe Newell mic'd up is calling him Waza, and I was trying to think who the fuck have we got in the team that's called Wayne, and it took me minutes to get that with me. But no, really, you said who said about gets it earlier? This interview screams gets it, and again I thought it was pretty good. I caught the majority of the game sort of like I was doing other things and that, but I had it on my phone and stuff at the weekend, and thought he handled, obviously up against good opposition, handled the game well, and he's a player that I think it's really important coming to a club like Hibs. I want players to come in and feel like it's a step up. I don't want players to come and feel like it's they're coming from like a bigger team and they think they'll sort of cruise it, if that makes sense. I would much rather be signing players that feel like they're coming here to prove something, and I feel like that's what he's got, and I think that always helps. I know it's not a recipe for success, but it should help. And a lot of games at MK Dons, captained MK Dons, I believe, as well. I think they said in his interview with the sort of longer format one. So no, I think an impressive signing. Look, I know we've had was it League Two, League One he played in, and we sort of had our doubts about the standard of that level. We've said God, Harry McCurdy scored 25 goals in that league, for example. Like, maybe the defending's not great, but on paper seems like a good signing and hopefully a nice, solid addition, good age, everything like that. So, makes sense. That's what it is. It makes sense.
Yeah, that's lovely summary. Craig, get your thoughts. Kind of talk about the two centre backs that we've brought in. Is that the type of profile you were wanting based off what you've read into them so far?
Yeah, it seems just off the sort of initial write-ups after they both signed that we kind of got one does one thing and one does the other. It sounds like Cohora's going to be the sort of ball player and Marv will be the command and sort of no nonsense centre half. But just by the sounds of it, obviously very very limited in terms of my knowledge of the players themselves. I've never seen either of them play, so other than the weekend. So I think that'll just be a wait and see type thing. But just off the face of it, yeah, I like balancing a team. It seems like we've got one that can play a bit and one that can smash folk when needed. So if that's uh, if that's something to go off, then hopefully we're on a winner. But I touch on what Ewan said as well, and he was kind of obviously hinting towards the attitude of players, and I feel like that actually is a really important thing. Like attitude in football is, for me, attitude and confidence are two of the like main things. If you come in thinking you're better, then you're going to basically half-arse it, and you're off to a loser from the start. So, nah, I really really liked the sound of him in the interview. I thought it came across really well. So, not that that is everything, but I think that'll massively help him.
And
Aye.
the other name we signed just to bring you in on them both as well, Liam. Marvin Ekpiteta. Ekpiteta, is that what we're
Good
going
That's,
for?
effort.
I think that's pretty good for you, Harry, to be honest. I'm actually quite pleased. I don't know what you've been doing over the summer. Maybe you've been taking elocution lessons or something. I'm delighted that you got that one. I'm a wee bit disappointed in Craig though. I thought he would remember Marvin Ekpiteta for the Blackpool
But
friendly last summer. I thought he'd have been scouting him at the game, taking
There
notes.
are a
But
few beers to be fair.
maybe Craig was just a wee bit. I was going to say maybe a wee bit under the influence at that point. I mean I like O'Hora for all the reasons that you guys have touched on. I think again, I think the whole League Two thing's a bit of a red herring because he played the vast majority of his football in League One. It was just last season they were down in League Two. Played under some good coaches, Russell Martin and Liam Manning, pretty well regarded coaches. I loved his interview, honestly. Like, see if you could just hit all the sound bites that I want you to hit in the interview. It just hit everything for me in terms of, the sort of his enthusiasm for signing for the club first and foremost. Like he wants to be here. He's moved his wife or his partner up, who's having a baby in like October, November time, rerouting their entire life from Milton Keynes to Edinburgh. I mean, to be honest, who wouldn't he want to move from Milton Keynes to Edinburgh? But he seems like he really wants to be here, and I think that's massive in the players that we're going to bring in. And I mean, I'm all in on him. Like even if he has like his first 5 games are a stinker, I'll still be on here defending him because I just like the cut of his jib.
he's played down the left side of the free, Harry, as well, so he might be the one that I know we'll maybe get onto it, but maybe he is just comfortable on the left hand side. I know he's not naturally left footed, but if he's played on the left side of the free in the pre-season friendly, I would suggest he would be comfortable enough to play on the left there too.
Aye. And just in terms of my thoughts on it, it's nice that we're actually taking centre back seriously. Because for how many seasons in a row now have we just put stopgap, what you got
Here's
loan
the
signings in for centre back? Obviously we've not quite fixed my left, got me a left footer yet. But I'd like from what I've seen, the caliber of these guys is we should expect them to be signed and start for Hibs. Like I don't think these guys are signed as backup options or kind of journeymen that are thrown in for no reason. Like I think these guys were actually signed with a purpose, which I think is good. Whereas when was the last time we signed a permanent centre
I
back?
was wondering when you were going to whap out
Probably
the how
Bashiri.
many Windows stat it's been.
No, oh God, the left-footed one's a disaster of a stat. But
It'd be Bashiri or Kyle McClelland would have been the
uh,
last one that we signed permanently, I think.
Eminently.
And Kyle McClelland's going to co-reign on loan for the rest of the season, so that tells you how that one went. And Bashiri very much divides opinion, so let's hope that we're on the up and up with our centre-back recruitment.
Indeed. And I can't really add any more than you guys did there. So just before we move on to the David Gray portion of the episode, just give me a quick, you don't have to give me names, but if you give me the targets, we've got a goalkeeper in and two centre backs. As we mentioned, we're doing our best to cull some of the squad that needs rid of. In terms of who we want to bring in, Liam, give me your top three priorities.
centre forward, number 6, and probably a left winger on the proviso that Yuan's likely to leave. And we do need a backup left back, but like backup left back can fucking wait. Like I'm not sweating about a second guy to a beater.
Aye, Foley can just send us someone from Bournemouth to cover that gap. Um,
I'll just take Stevenson back for Rafe.
they'll do as they're
Surely he's got a
told.
clause in his contract to just say to Hibs want you back, you just come.
Craig, same question to you.
Goals, so somebody up top or slash sort of attacking midfielder. Maybe I've cheated there and took two at once, but I'd still want another centre half. I'm kind of in the camp where I'm not overly convinced with Rocky. I think he's good one week, sort of disastrous the next. And obviously going into a season with 3 centre halves, as soon as one get injured, you're kind of getting a wee bit shaky there. And a number 6 as well.
Nice, a bit samey for my liking, but Ewan, what's your thoughts?
The squad in its current setup and the makeup of it, so assuming that Yuan was to stay and all that, centre back and 2 forward options. I would agree with the guys and think that we do need a midfielder, but defence especially was, I think, last season where you looked and went, that needs to be better. I think midfield forward, you can say that the players that we have should have done more as well with the quality they've got, but definitely 1, if not 2 forward options and another centre back. I don't hate the makeup of the midfield currently, but there's a couple of players I'd like to see move on and then bring 1 in.
Hey. Well, I've decided, we're going to talk about it soon, but I've decided, as I've said in the group chat and been corrected already, that we're going to play long ball Hibs this season. So get me a left-footed centre back that can also play at left back. You know they exist somewhere. Get me a
You've got one, a
target
beater.
man. Aye, but he's not going to play at centre back every week, is he, Dick? Get me a big huddy up front that doesn't really do much, but the ball sticks well off him. And I think we're kind of missing an attacking midfielder, to be honest. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't really have anybody that if we're who would you have
But
in the team that would actually pick a like defence split and pass?
lot of noise about Josh Campbell this
I was going to say
pre-season.
Josh
Yeah.
Campbell, yeah.
I
I know
love
that-
Josh Campbell, but
The interview with Luke Amos that came out on the Hibs
Oh, I
Observer.
forgot about him.
I say that's bad, Harry. I forgot about him as well.
They actually were talking about him not necessarily being that. And how we all sort of thought he was just going to be a number 6 and sit there, playing a little bit higher up the pitch. He would see himself as more wants to score goals, wants to create chances. I believe he played, according to that interview, played number 10 in the second half at Edinburgh City. So yeah, and he's actually a player that makes me a little bit less worried about midfield. Just let's say with the current makeup of the squad.
Nice. Yeah, I think he's kind of like similar to Kyle McGuinness. I think that if he does get a run of games, you'll definitely get a good player there, but you are always worried in the back of your head that he will get injured. Obviously, touch wood, don't wish injury upon any Hibs player. However, that's a transfer target sorted, boys. So if the recruitment team's listening, get them in. And next up, Liam, we'll come to you last on this one just because you were on the last episode. But Ewan, you'd been convinced towards, and David Gray is Hibernian Football Club manager. Talk to me.
No, I'm delighted, Harry. I think I'd sort of set my stall out on that as soon as Montgomery left, as much as to just make myself feel better, and it certainly has. But I think it's a good appointment, and I think what we all sort of spoke about it in terms of getting people on board and probably people being easier to convince. I think you're already starting to feel that and see that online and with things that are being released and how things are received. Really, really, really happy with it. Totally happy with it.
Big David Gray.
Love it. Tempered with a wee bit of sort of nervousness. Just the whole not wanting them to fail thing. And I'd hate to see sort of the fans. Obviously, we've got a few roasters amongst our midst. So I'd hate to see him getting the same treatment that the previous managers have got, whether fairly or unfairly or whatever. But I don't want to see go down that road, but I think the good thing about David Gray is, or one of the good things is that it'll not take much. It won't take much at all for like there to be an unbelievable atmosphere about the place. A couple of wins, uh, even if you're to win all your group stage games, like we go into the season, sort of really good atmosphere about the place. Uh, so yeah, no, I'm happy. I like the sound of him. The best thing he's ever said and best thing I've ever heard from a manager about being adaptable, rather than sticking with a philosophy for entire season when we clearly shouldn't be trying to play it for the back at Celtic Park or whatever when we've got 8 guys pressing us on the edge of the box. So I like the sound of that. So we'll see. I'm happy.
I don't I don't want to speak before Liam gets the chance to have his 2 pence. Just maybe worth adding. Like you said earlier, myself and Liam are big on athleticism in this league, and I don't know. I just get the impression that's going to be a massive part of David Gray's. I think he'll want players that can cover the ground. I think we will be very well disciplined. We probably will press more. I think you've seen that sort of from again what's been published from the club and the Observer, but it should suit Scottish football more. I know that whether that's right or wrong, and it should make more sense from all the sound bites that have come out so far.
And I think in terms of the past couple of appointments, it's just like it's really safe. Like I think this season, with the amount of players we're trying to get rid of and bring in, like I know we've said it the last couple of years, but it is actually a proper reset. We've brought someone in, whether I agree with the appointment or not, who's been tasked with kind of gutting the squad and rebuilding it into a vision that'll work for David Gray. So for me, he's coming at the perfect time to do it. And hopefully with the players, like the 3 signings we've made, obviously by this point, we'd probably all be hoping for a couple more. But with the 3 signings we've made, it's definitely hopeful that he's going to have a squad that he can kind of mold into his vision. And as I say, having a manager that isn't obsessed with keeping the ball for the sake of keeping the ball, or having, as you alluded to, that stupid like, oh, we must play the same way. I know I was gassing it up the whole time we had Montgomery, but I've changed my tune since we were that pish. And as Craig said, that was incredibly refreshing to hear a manager be like, we are going to play different ways based on who we're playing, because it's the way football should be played. The Euros has been pish because of all these tactics and that. David Gray's just going to go off vibes, and I'm all for it. But speaking of vibes, David Gray's backroom staff, talk to me, Liam.
Tactics in that. I love your tactics in that. Like it's like this new thing that's just been invented and created. Like tactics didn't exist before the
It's Pep's
Euros.
fault.
I mean,
That's a massive rant for another time,
if
but aye.
if you want my honest opinion on football, which is a very Brexit opinion, football's gone right downhill since the advent of 4-2-3-1. Football was a much better sport when every fucker just played 4-4-2, and you just knew how a team was going to line up. Not Nick Montgomery style 4-4-2 though, like proper balls to the wall 4-4-2. I think you've seen it already though in pre-season. He's played a 4-3-3 and he's played a 3-5-2. I'm right in thinking, so far this season. So, or a variation on a 4-3-3, right? All you fucking formation shaggers will love that chat that I've just rhymed off a couple of different formations. Usually talking about Gegan presses and box to box midfielders before I know it. But I do think that the backroom team is pretty deliberately chosen in terms of 3 people with a connection to the club. Some with a bigger connection than others. I do think that despite all the chat about Eddie May not wanting to kind of work in that area again, I do think he's a pretty sound appointment, just given his vast experience in the game. The fact that he's the only man who's probably been caretaker almost as many times as David Gray as well, gives him a bit of insight. And I think Liam Craig, as much as I absolutely despised him as a St Johnstone player, and I mean that, like I despised him, he's one of those guys just always front of the net. Yeah, I think he's probably quite a shrewd appointment, and by all accounts is quite a student of the game as well. So it's not like when Sean Maloney announced his backroom staff and you were like, oh my God.
I thought the players were going to get kidnapped at any minute. But aye, we didn't have to worry about that, which is great. And then, yeah, and being honest, I've not actually managed to catch any of the games so far. Obviously, we had the 5-0 win against Edinburgh City, which FC Edinburgh. I've literally got FC Edinburgh written down. I've said Edinburgh City anyway. And then
I think they're Edinburgh City again.
They're back to Edinburgh City.
I think Google lied to me then, bastard. And then we beat. that team.
Aye, then.
Aye, then
German
we beat
side.
we beat what you got Paok as well. It's isn't for everybody. So there we go. But in terms of what you expect for the group stages ahead, what are the minimum expectations that you want out of these games? Liam, you just spoke, but I'll come back to you.
12 points.
Nice. Craig, are you expecting is the win the main thing out of these games? Or are you expecting us to play a certain way?
Uh, no, after last year. It was last year we didn't get through, so let's just
2 years
let's
ago.
just get through.
I didn't
Uh,
have to play in it last year because we were
oh,
playing
because
Europe.
we were in Europe. That was good.
Good
Uh,
boys.
take us back. No, just get through. I'm not really bothered about performance. Well, it's not. No, shut up. I kind of am, but at the same time, they're kind of just like minutes games, pre-season issue. They're no pre-season, but they kind of are. It's funny, like after that, the recent friendly, and they're like, "Oh, that's pre-season over." I was like, "The barely even started." Uh, so, just the not going to say glorify pre-season friendlies because I actually don't mind them. It puts a wee bit of edge into the game. But no, yeah, I think you've definitely got to be winning every game. I think regardless of performance, so you've got to be winning every single game.
And you and what players have you got your eyes on over the next 4 games?
Definitely the three new boys to me. I would be, as you're saying, what minimum minimum expectations 12, 4 wins, 12 points. But I think a massive thing. We're not conceding a goal in the end of the friendly, so hopefully try and keep that going. Across like I'm not being sorry. I've got a dog going mental in the background here.
That's all right.
Uh,
We like dogs.
you're playing 4 League 1 and League 2 sides. You know what I mean? Go and keep clean sheets and score a couple of goals and just be comfortable. Breeze through the next week and 3 games in a week, then a week off until the 27th for the final game. Like just get the business done. Players that should stand out. Josh Campbell, go and score a couple of goals, really cement your place in the team. Dylan Vente, score a goal or two. You know what I mean? Like it is probably the more attacking players, but I will be looking to see how we do defensively. Not that it's any real barometer, but I think 4 clean sheets would be fantastic. Not, I might look. Is that realistic? I don't know, but I'd like if it was individual games, I would be thinking we'd keep a clean sheet against Peterhead, Elgin. You know what I mean? So, just be comfortable, be professional, and performance only matters in these when I think if a manager comes into the summer under pressure, or if you don't win the game. You know what I mean? Like I think if you go through the games winning, then literally nobody will give a fuck.
Lovely. My players to watch out for. I agree with the expectations. Like realistically, as 4 isolated games, we should be expecting 4 wins, and it doesn't change because we're playing them in quick succession. For me, Dylan Vente, I think there's definitely a player in there. We saw that before he came in his first like couple of months when he was at the club, but I think he's reasonably coming under quite a lot of scrutiny. We need a goal scorer. It's the thing that gets people third in Scottish football. So we need him to come good. And then for me, Joe Newell needs to start the season hot if he's still currently captain, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah, if he's going to be captain for the year ahead, in my opinion, I know I've said it many times before, I think he needs to be consistent week in, week out, and I think that needs to start with playing lesser opposition in the League Cup group stage. So they're my 2 players that I'm watching out for. And in terms of when we'll be back, Liam, is it what day is it we're back?
Don't ask
well,
me, mate. I've got no concept of time right now. But
That's very fair.
I'd,
we'll
I'd,
have an
I,
episode released. We'll have an episode released on the back of the first game, but we won't be going into too much depth about the League Cup games. We'll have an episode next week. Yeah.
yeah, just to whet your appetite, we'll be doing some content, but we don't care when the content will be. So we hope that you're content with the content that we put out.
Oh, is outstanding.
And
That
just
was superb.
anyone,
Thanks, boys.
and if anyone's signed before Saturday, you'll be able to put 2 and 2 together. This has been pre-recorded to when it's released.
Aye.
Let's
And
put it out earlier on Saturday because by then we'll have signed Rudy Payton to play up front with Dylan Vente against Elgin. And because let's be honest, that's what Vente needs. He needs someone to do the dog work for him.
I can
Rudy Payton, get him in.
if you want to know what's coming for Down the Slope the rest of this current pre-season and before the league campaign, the boys will be going through their Hibs predictions next week for the season. We'll then be looking back on the League Cup group stages when that concludes, and then on the eve of the first league game of the season, we will be given our league preview, and then after the St Mirren game, we're going to cheat a little bit and give our wider Scottish football predictions once we've seen everyone play once. So that's what you've got coming over the next month. And it'll be quite a skeleton crew because I'm on holiday. Liam's got a big day. Don't know if I want that to be public knowledge or not. Well, it is now. Aye, there you go, Harry. You asked the wrong person.
I did ask the wrong person, but here we are. That was beautiful. Right, guys. Thanks so much for listening, and we will catch you next time. Goodbye.
Cheers.
Yes.